You are listening to Naturally Inspired Daily. Subscribe today at livenaturallyinspired.com. Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's Naturally Inspired Daily. Wow, what a weekend we had here. It was pretty crazy. At first, they said we were going to get almost 5 feet of snow by Saturday, and we all kind of thought that that was a big joke when we woke up Saturday morning and there was virtually nothing on the ground. But we were quickly made fools of by laughing at the weatherman when I'd say almost 4 feet of snow did finally dump on us. So we lost power for a full day. And we were using sleds to drag out bales of hay to our cattle. So it was fun times here on 1890 Homestead. So that was our weekend, a little bit crazy here. But we're going to go ahead and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Make sure you smash that button and subscribe because I want to be able to get all these really interesting stories out to you. Today, we're starting first off with COVID-19 vaccination stuff. I've shared this guy's stuff, I think last Thursday or last Wednesday. So it just seemed so profoundly important, what this guy is saying. His name is Dr. Bossche, and he world-renowned vaccine developer. Okay. He is anything but an anti-vaxxer. Okay. This guy is pro-vaccine all the way. And my personal views don't line up with his that much, but I understand the concept that he's laying out here. And this is actually the way I've been viewing it from the very beginning in terms of being able to get through COVID-19 and have that ability to navigate through your immune system even better when the variant comes out. So this is kind of what I've been saying the whole time. Like, we're not going to ever make ourselves immune to all the variants of viruses that we have on the planet if we don't allow our natural immunity to fight through them. I always think of my immune system kind of like a rose bush. Every time it gets attacked and, trimmed back, when I come out of it, I'm stronger and better. That's just my own personal viewpoint, visual that I use to think about my own immune system. Of course, I'm not a scientist or a doctor or anything like that, but that's just kind of how I've always thought about it. And here, lo and behold, this is almost exactly what this scientist, Dr. Bossche, is saying. He's just saying, and he's so pro-vax. So in this, he's a board certified virology and microbiology. He is the author of over 30 publications. He's the inventor of patent applications for universal vaccines. So he holds patents on them. I mean, he's really putting himself out there to come out and say, and he's calling for a moratorium on this vaccine. No more. He wants a halt on all COVID-19 vaccinations because he says it's an uncontrollable monster. The way he describes it is, this is the wrong weapon for this battle. You don't vaccinate in the middle of a pandemic because the virus just mutates, and we've already been hearing about variants. And you're not going to be ready because your natural immune system hasn't gone through the battle that it needs to do. And I just found this made so much sense to me. You can access his letter, I believe is still floating around. He first did this interview on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn removed it, from what I understand. And he is not mixing words in this letter. He is stating very matter-of-factly, he is not against vaccination. He is for vaccination, but he outlines that this particular vaccination is a prophylactic vaccine. And he says this is completely inappropriate and even highly dangerous when it's used in mass vaccination campaigns during a viral pandemic. Vaccinologists, scientists, and clinicians are blinded by the positive short-term effects in individual patients, but don't seem to bother about the disastrous consequences consequences for global health. Unless I am scientifically proven wrong, it is difficult to understand how current human interventions will prevent circulating variants from turning into a wild monster. And my take on this is exactly what I've been feeling like, is that if we don't go through this naturally, we won't be prepared for any variants in the future. And he doesn't mix words about it at all. Like I said before, he is calling for the complete stop of these of the COVID-19 vaccination. And that's exactly what I've been saying kind of from the get-go. It just doesn't make sense with all of the evidence that we have out there. 0% death rate in our children, and, very low death rate in people that go through the COVID-19. If you have underlying health conditions, you're more at risk to succumb to the COVID-19 virus. But if you don't have any underlying health risks, then this is a very minimal risk, which brings me to the new data on the CDC, the vaccines, which is, pretty mind-blowing, because first of all, our adverse reaction program, which we've talked about several times here on the podcast, the VAERS program. This is a reporting system that is actually a passive reporting system, meaning that people have to come to it to report. They don't go out seeking adverse reactions, and they don't go out seeking cases that have had, or investigating cases that may have had an adverse reaction to a vaccine. You have to go to it. So there's great pressure within the medical community to not report, because there's all kinds of reasons why. They're not motivated in the medical community to report adverse reactions unless they're pressed to. So it ends up lying on the victims themselves to report, and those kind of wild cards in the medical industry that feel compelled to report. So I was listening to Dr. Tenpenny, a video from her the other day, and her estimation, and this is just her estimation, is that the most vaccine injury goes 90% unreported. So with that in mind, that would mean 10% of what's being reported. That's only 10% of what's actually happening is being reported through the vaccine injury site. So that's, something to consider. Dr. Tenpenny has 20 plus years in this arena. She was for vaccines before she started really digging into them about 20 years ago, and then kind of reversed her opinion on them after due diligence with study, and her practice as a doctor as well indicated that there might be something wrong going here. So that leads me to this week's deaths for vaccines. They were up 259 reports in 1 week. So this article is coming to us from the Defender, Children's Health Defense, which is a great resource for all information about health, and particularly vaccines. So this is the data released through the vaccine adverse event reporting system. And in 1 week, it was up 259. So from December 14th, 2020 and March 5th, 2021, there have been 31,079 reports of adverse events. And that includes 1,524 deaths and 5,507 serious injuries, as well as 390 reports of Bell's palsy. Okay, so again, I'm not, this is a conservative report, in my opinion, based on all the other doctors that I've studied who indicate that these are low numbers, because this is a passive reporting system. And it should be mentioned, it's pretty much self-policed as well. So that's another indicator to be aware of. 19% of deaths were related to cardiac disorders. 53% of those who died were male, 45 were female, and the remaining death reports did not include gender of the deceased. The average age of those who died was 77.9, and the youngest death was 23 years old. As of March 5th, 265 pregnant women have reported adverse events related to their vaccines, the COVID vaccine, including 85 reports of miscarriage or premature birth. None of the COVID vaccines approved for emergency use authorization. That's a different designation than an FDA approved vaccine. So that should be noted. This is an emergency use authorization. And none of them have been, approved through the FDA. So there were 1,689 reports of anaphylaxis, with 59% of cases attributed to the Pfizer BioNTech vaccine and 41% to the Moderna. The first Johnson & Johnson COVID vaccine was administered in the US on March 2nd. And as of March 5th, there were 2 adverse events related to the vaccine that had been reported to VAERS, both occurring in young people. And the reactions included tongue tingling, numbness, hot flashes, headache, and extreme fatigue. March 10th, the defender reported that the death of a 39-year-old woman died 4 days after receiving a second dose of Moderna's COVID. And that was from organ failure. Again, a lot of these stories are being documented online through social media accounts, but they're being suppressed. So definitely look into that. You can always correlate too, which I have done. If you see something anecdotal on your social media site, you can go into the VAERS program and you can coordinate dates and even see, okay, that might have been related to this, and you can kind of start to put the dots together. If you want to verify if the story is true or not. It takes some time, but it's definitely worth doing. There's been a 58-year-old woman that died hours after getting her first dose of the Pfizer COVID vaccine, and they're still investigating her death with an autopsy. There's a whole lot of cognitive dissonance around this, in my opinion. When a doctor says this must be coincidental, I'm not buying that at this point, and I don't think you should either. I think people should say, well, at the very least, we need to investigate. And that doesn't seem to be happening. That just seems to be being pushed underneath the rug. And quite honestly, just because you say something's okay doesn't mean that it is okay. Okay, third story, moving on. I want to talk a little bit about Johnson & Johnson, since it's the last vaccine that has come on the scene. Something I want to mention about this company, and a lot of these companies really, why should we be trusting these people? These people, and this article comes again from Children's Health Defense, Johnson & Johnson has a long rap sheet. I mean, they have been fined billions of dollars for bad behavior. And it just is kind of fascinating to me how this stuff just okay, they get fined, but money is not an issue for these giant corporations. They just pay the fines and they keep doing business. And unfortunately, a lot of them contribute to media outlets and whatnot. And then these stories just kind of barely reach the surface, and then they're buried. So these are really massive corporations that have now moved into almost acting like our government. I mean, I don't even think our current administration is in control here. These companies are in control. And it would certainly seem that way when they are paying out $347 billion pharmaceutical behemoth company, $347 billion it's worth. And it's a trusted brand. And people just need to kind of look at it from all angles. I'm not saying that all their products are bad, or that everything they do is bad. I'm not saying that, but what I am saying is that there is cause to question these companies. There is cause to question, and we right now aren't allowed to question anything, and we're being basically gaslit if we do question it. So lots of reasons to be looking closer at these companies and thinking about their history and what they've done in the past, and then trusting them wholeheartedly and letting them take the lead in our government is, it's just crazy. They paid out $70 million penalty for buying off officials in Greece, Poland, and Romania. In 2010, an executive was sentenced to a year in prison for corrupt payments to physicians within the Greek national healthcare system. So I mean, it goes on and on. They had issues with faulty hip implants, and they paid out $2.5 billion to compensate 8,000 recipients for its flawed hip implant. So 1995 is 7.5 million. They destroyed documents to cover up investigations. 96, there's an undisclosed settlement for false claims over condom protection. In 2001, 860 million in a class action lawsuit for soft contact lenses. 2010, 81 million for misbranding its anti-epileptic drug, Topamax. 2011, baby products were discovered to have cancer-causing ingredients. The Justice Department charged the company $2.2 billion in criminal fines for marketing its autism and antipsychotic drug, Risperdal, for unapproved use. I mean, 2016, $127 million in damages for talc because it causes ovarian cancer. I mean, this is just part of doing business for these companies. And I don't, that's fine if they want to do business this way. But the problem I have is that there isn't informed consent. They are bearing this information and people aren't given informed consent. And here we are again, in the middle of this whole nightmare of COVID-19 vaccine. And it's a cash cow for them. They predict that they will reach 40 billion in sales. And here we are, with all these adverse effects, and they're just being swept under the rug again. So, the information's there, but you have to go looking for it. And that's why I'm doing these little articles every day, because I'm hoping to at least, trigger the thought, and then people can go out and do their own research, because these companies are not there. Their commercials crack me up because they have these beautiful babies on them and, oh, it's all about family and health. And a lot of our food companies do that too. I mean, I just saw this lengthy advertisement for Oreos that, this is, oh, we love family and we support all genders, and we support gay and lesbian, and this, long out tale about this person bringing home their same gender partner for the first time. And, oh, there's Oreos to wrap them all up in comfort. Oreos has glyphosate in it. And it's a horrible product, really. I mean, if you want to treat yourself to an Oreo once in a while, sure, that's fine. But nobody ever tells you that the dark side of these companies. And not to mention that Oreo is a part of a huge company that makes hundreds of products that all contain poisons and things that are banned in other countries. It drives me crazy. So, they wrap it all up in a nice little package, making you feel like they support your family and they love you so much and they're diverse and this and that. Well, they don't care that much, because they don't care enough to take the chemical out of your food. But anyway, that's how I feel about that. So anyway, do your own research and look into these companies, because their history will blow your mind. It will blow your mind once you get into their history. On to article number 4. This was a really interesting one coming from Medical Kidnap. I got it from their website. They cite really nicely. They have lots of ways to cite here from different editors and whatnot, from Health Impact News. So this was a really informative article, and it answers, I think, a lot of questions that people might have. So maybe you've heard already, or you've seen on your social media feed, I got the vaccine and I'm totally fine. Just shut up and take your vaccine. I didn't have any problems with it. And then you've seen other people like, holy crap, man, this second dose is a killer. Like, I am sick as a dog. I've never had any symptoms before and I feel awful. So you're seeing these contrasting kind of anecdotal stories. And in my own opinion, I immediately thought, well, this is a trial. So when they do a trial, they have to test it against placebo. And so I thought, well, maybe they're doing a placebo type thing, and some people are getting it and some people aren't. And when you agree to informed consent, you agree that you are partaking in a clinical trial. So then if you're agreeing to that, maybe they don't have to inform you of which one you're getting, something like that. This was just thoughts in my own head. And then I see today, this article, and it talks about how leaked Pfizer documents reveal that only 55% of some of the COVID vaccine samples had RNA intact prior to European approval, exposing huge quality control issues. So if you read this article, basically what it says is that some of the vaccines had lost their potency, and maybe that was because they well, they have to be stored at a ridiculous temperature, and it's difficult to maintain that. So perhaps that was why that happened. But what they're saying is it raises an interesting question, as people have asked and reported so many deaths and injuries following the mRNA vaccine within their personal networks and families. And this seems safe to some people and not to others. And now there are reports of like entire teachers, at a school that all got injected at the same time, and then they couldn't go to work because they were all sick. And of course, they spin that as, oh, this is a good thing. This means your body's working, which is, I don't understand this. What other vaccine have you ever taken where you get so ill you can't function the next day? It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me, particularly when they've been spouting off for decades that it's totally coincidental that when you get a flu shot and then you get the flu right afterwards, they don't coincide. For decades. I mean, I think everybody knows somebody that says, I got a flu shot once and I'm never getting one again because the one time I did, I was never sicker in my whole life, right? But they've always blown that off as coincidence. But here they're saying, oh, it's a good sign now. It's a good sign that you're getting sick right after. It means your body's working on it. Okay. Anyway, there's always a double standard with these people. So yes, like I said, so it needs to be stored at 70 degrees below zero. And so that's pretty meticulous, I guess. And so they're thinking, well, there could be a few duds, because if they weren't stored properly or left out too long or whatever, then they found that 55% of them weren't actually containing enough of the mRNA, right? So there wasn't enough. The efficacy depends on the presence of suitable amounts of intact mRNA. And in the case of the commercial batches that first raised alarm bells, the agency told the BMJ that the levels of mRNA and the amounts of potential protein produced by them would be too low to constitute a safety risk. So I mean, I'm not really sure exactly what that means, but the idea here, I think that they're trying to relay is that you could be getting more of the mRNA in some batches than in others. And that's why people are having this kind of contrasting effect off of them. And these, again, were from leaked documents from Pfizer. And so that's an interesting theory. And something that, should be looked into. But again, if we're not looking into these things or even allowed to question them, then how will we know if this is the case, but it would make sense because I'm seeing a whole lot of people that are really sick after that second dose. And then I've known a couple people who are shouting from the rooftops that they're totally fine. I'm totally fine. So it could be that, they've been stored different or there's less potent than others, but it also needs to be mentioned that everyone reacts different to everything. I mean, that's why some people, when they get a cold, they have a really sore throat, and then the same person or a person that's been exposed to their cold doesn't develop the symptom in that manner. They get an achy neck. That happens in my house all the time. If we ever get sick, one person will have, an achy neck or a sore throat, and then other people are just congested, right? Because we all deal with things differently. And so to mandate something for everybody without taking into consideration that this is going to impact everybody differently blows my mind. It blows my mind that anyone could think that they can mandate someone's health protocol with a one paintbrush. Everybody gets painted with the same brush. That's incredibly irresponsible. And, I can't even believe that we're here. I can't even believe it. Okay, moving on. I wanted to bring in a little bit of like stuff that I see on my daily feed. A lot of it's anecdotal, and I'm saying that up front. But this particular issue I'm seeing, and I find it so, so disturbing because, again, we're constantly looking for things outside ourselves to make ourselves feel better. Like that's going to be the solution. When in all reality, the work has to be done within, because you're always going to be looking for another fix if you don't do the work within. So make sure you connect with me again on my social media. You can follow me on livenaturallyinspired.com, and we have great conversations on there. Most of these social media posts came from my Instagram or from my Facebook, but they were certainly interesting because, again, instead of looking within and doing the work within, we're looking for things to save us outside of ourselves. And this couldn't be more apparent with some of these posts that I saw. So this one, this person is pointing out the good things that have come from COVID, which I'm all for being positive for sure. But these things are a little twisted, in my opinion, because they're actually promoting sickness and promoting not healthy behavior to function in a society where people interact and where human connection is known to be part of a healthy human existence. So this person declares, with a mask, you can sing in the grocery store, you can talk to yourself without anybody knowing. You can leave spinach in your teeth, and you can have coffee breath, and you don't have to wear lipstick, and you will save money on mints and lipstick. So she loves wearing a mask. Quote, "I love wearing a mask. I want to do this forever. It has helped so much with my social anxiety. Wearing a mask is really letting me be ugly and at peace. I love it." So I guess she's saying that, she doesn't have to do herself up to go outside. But nobody's ugly, right? I mean, you have to come to a peace with yourself. And it's sad to me that someone thinks that they're ugly, because, you have to come, this is how you were born, and you have to become at peace with that in order to be confident and function in the world. And there are many ways to do that, but just covering yourself up and relying on something outside yourself to hide yourself, that would indicate that you have really poor self-esteem, which is, not healthy. So they go on. Another person claimed that the normalized use of masks is a great thing. They don't think that they could ever go back to not wearing a mask. This person's first name is Donna, and she's in her 40s. And she tweeted that and then posted it on her Instagram already. Masks hide us, and she likes not catching colds or not wearing makeup and not being noticed. She likes not being noticed. So even in a vaccinated world with herd immunity, she's still going to be hiding behind her mask. This makes me so sad. Where are the feminists? There's such a double standard here. You want, promotion of all beauty, no matter what shape or size, no matter what you look like. You should be proud of yourself. You should put yourself out there. You should have confidence because you're beautiful inside, which, as a matter of fact, I totally believe. You are beautiful inside. When you have a beautiful attitude, when you're grateful, when you're kind, those are beautiful attributes that we need to be beaming out of ourselves, right? And you beam that stuff out of the twinkle in your eyes and the smile across your face. And so hiding behind a mask and acting like this is so great because you don't have to give a shit about the way you look, like how egocentric are you to hide your light for vanity? It blows my mind. It blows my mind that people could be celebrating this. It's just sad. Another part here, this other person, this is a whole nother person, goes on to talk about how the mask has helped her 16-year-old son because he's a teenager, and he comes when he comes into contact with people, like when they're chit-chatting with store clerks and stuff, he actually doesn't like that. And so she never considered that these social graces aren't easy for him. And so now with a mask, he can avoid them because people are interacting less and you can hide behind it. And so there isn't this need for interaction. And again, when I was a kid and in school, the shy kid was the one that the teacher was like, come on, you got to get up here. You got to do this. Those were the ones we knew we had to nurture a little bit more and applaud more when they got up and put themselves out there, because confidence is needed. It's needed in this world. And if you don't have it, you suffer. You have to push through that stuff. You got to push through that stuff. You cannot care more about what other people think about you than what you want to do with your life. That cannot happen because you will not push forward. And these people who are allowing this, nurturing it, oh, they have anxiety disorder, so this is a great thing for them. No, we need to find out why they have anxiety disorder, and we need to work on that, because that is what will keep that person going. We can't sink into the diseases that we've got. We have to rise above them, find out why, and become stronger and healthier and move past it. This is such a bad model. I cannot stress that enough. Speaking of anxiety disorder, this was a very interesting little nugget I learned today. And I love researching health history. It's my thing. I love it because I'm usually mind blown when I figure out what the heck these products were, what they came from, who started it, why they started it. It'll blow your mind. I'm telling you, all the time. So today I was doing a little bit of research, and because I saw an article, and it kind of made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. So I started digging into it. And the article I saw suggested that we may want to consider putting lithium in our water. because British scientists are proposing that we should do this because, and this is back in August, but they already knew that suicide was going to be an issue during the lockdowns back in August. So they were talking about adding a supplement to our water of lithium, because their aim was to lessen suicide, right? But lithium is used to treat mania that is part of a bipolar disorder, so manic depressive illness. And, people that kind of suffer from manic episodes and then really low depressed episodes. So they've linked it with potentially lowering instances of Alzheimer and other forms of dementia, apparently. But I want to bring up this point, like, can you imagine, having your water treated? We already have fluoride in our water because somewhere along the line they decided that this was better for our health. But really, we have no idea what's in our water. And they would continue to do that and add lithium to it. Now, lithium, it's worth mentioning that lithium occurs naturally and can be in water already, but that's not what they're talking about. They're talking about adding it to the water, right? So when I started researching this, I found that this really kind of cool article about 7-Up. So did you know that 7-Up contained lithium when it was first created? And perhaps that was the up part, because Charles Leiper Grigg was born on May 11th, 1868 in Missouri, and he moved to St. Louis when he was 22 years old and started working in advertising and sales for pop companies. He invented his first drink called the Whistle, and while he was working for a manufacturing company owned by Vest Jones, he left the company after some kind of conflict, but he found a job at a new soft drink manufacturer where he invented another orange flavored drink called Howdy. And he went on from the Howdy company together with a financier and another lawyer At the time, Orange Crush dominated the market for orange sodas, so Grigg decided to focus on lemon lime flavors, and he came up with the formula for a lemon lime soft drink in 1929. So it goes on to describe how it was actually called bib label lithiated lemon lime soda, and it contained the compound lithium citrate, which is a mood stabilizing drug used in various patents at medicines at the time. But it was put into 7-Up. And lithium citrate has been used for many decades for psychiatric treatments of manic states and bipolar disorder, and is a supposed cure for hangovers, which I thought was hilarious because I think so many people actually drink 7-Up when they have the flu, right? After they've had the stomach flu. This is something that, people sip on, and also for hangovers too. I know people use it after that as well. So lithium drinks were in huge demand for their reputed health-giving properties, so much so that the element was added to commercial drink 7-Up. Right up until 1950, it says. In fact, it's been suggested that 7 in 7-Up refers to the atomic mass of lithium. Maybe the up referred to mood, is what this author suggests. And this article is coming from the vintagenews.com, which I really like that website. They've always got really great information on there from way back, and it's really good to see it. It wasn't until the government banned the use of lithium citrate in soft drinks in 1948 is when it was removed from 7-Up. And I find that interesting because I'm always looking at the other side of it. Well, why? Why did they ban it? Do you think they banned it because of our health and they were concerned for our health? No, they banned it because they want to make money off of selling it. I mean, come on, let's get real. That's how they roll. And the sooner people realize that, the better, because it's not about our health when in terms of pharmaceuticals. I mean, sure, if some people can get healthier with their products, then they're, that's kind of like okay, great. But that's not their primary focus. Their primary focus is money and their shareholders. And we should never forget that, because this is a huge business, and that's their, they have a fiduciary responsibility to take a company forward and make money. And that's that. So, I'm sure that there were lobbyists at the time that were lobbying to get this lithium out of the free marketplace because they wanted to make sure that they had the monopoly on it. So that was kind of an interesting article. I then went and looked at PubMed website and was able to find that, yeah, sure, indeed. Since, as far back as 1990, and I think there was one even before that, they have dabbled with lithium in the water. They've seen incidences of crimes because it's naturally occurring in water. Some people have more lithium in their water than other communities, that kind of thing. So they have been able to conduct some studies, and they have found that lithium in drinking water, they have fewer crimes, suicides, and arrests related to drug addiction in these areas that have more lithium in the water. Again, this would need to be unpacked on such a mass scale because, where's the study coming from, and who actually knows what the intent is. Right. So, because certainly if they had to buy lithium to put into our drinking water and that became a thing, somebody would be cashing some checks. So consider that. But this will be an interesting play as this plays out, because this will be like an excuse. Like there's always like a problem, and then we have this solution, and the solution happens to make a lot of money. And that's what we're seeing. Even the New York Times printed a story about lithium-laced drinking water could curb suicide rates, scientists say. So it'll be interesting to watch that, because I always I call these breadcrumb stories when I start seeing them in the back pages, and then they're testing the market, I like to say, if people are going to push back on that. So this is August 5th, 2020 is when this particular article came out, and I saw it again today with this kind of, geez, you never know. Lithium could be the answer to these drastically high suicide rates, because we are seeing drastically high suicide rates. And they haven't even begun to publish those. So that's what I have for you today. Don't forget to go and subscribe to my videos, please. You can subscribe at naturallyinspiredpodcast.com for my weekly podcast. Just dropped a really great one with Asia from the Letters to the People podcast. It's kind of mind-blowing. And you don't want to miss it. But you can also go back on there and look at all my archives, because some people, I just want to say that it's totally fine to admit that you may have gotten something wrong. And I have gotten plenty of things wrong. I mean, I'm not here saying that I'm never wrong, but I think what's happening right now is there's so much information coming out that people are still trying to hang on to what they thought the story was in the beginning, because, in the beginning, we didn't know what we were dealing with. And I locked down. I mean, I didn't know what this was. It took time for me to unveil all the information and cross-reference things. And I need 3 stories to make sure that I know that is actually factual. So it's a process of coming to your own personal viewpoint. And that's totally okay. It's okay to say, you know what, I may have gotten this wrong. And so go back and listen to some of my first podcasts when COVID-19 first came out, because I talked to Dr. Scott Jensen, who's, really had some great insights on death certificates when it came to COVID-19, and how that was like, wow, that's really kind of weird. And then, Dr. Lee Merritt gives some great insights, Dr. Tommy John, Dr. Ben Tapper, all these doctors, you can look back I interviewed them weeks ago now, and it can help you put the pieces together as you kind of come to this new realization that, hey, maybe that wasn't what I thought it was. And that's okay. What's not okay is to continue with what you wanted it to be. Like, I can't be wrong, so I'm going to continue on with this. And I would say that too, even with the vaccine. Some people may have only had 1 shot so far, and now you're seeing this letter from Dr. Bossche. Well, it's okay to not go get the second one, in my opinion. And again, I'm not a doctor or a researcher or anything like that, but I'm just speaking from the heart, like what I would do if I had decided, okay, I'm going to get the vaccine, and I got one. And then I came across this new information, with this world-renowned vaccine developer that's like, whoa, put the brakes on. No, he is point blank saying, stop, right? That would be new information, and that would make me reconsider how I was going to move forward. So I just want to say, maybe you need permission. Maybe people need permission to say, okay, that isn't actually what I thought it was. And now this is what I know. And so I'm going to proceed as I see fit now. That's okay. In fact, that's the way we should operate, right? Like, oh, this is what I think today, because what I thought when I was 16 isn't what I thought today. And if I stuck to what I thought when I was 16, I certainly wouldn't be in the position I am today. Right? So we should recognize that in one another and embrace it and be like, it's okay. It's okay. As you learn new information, you change your mind, and that's the way it should work. So that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Naturally Inspired Daily. I'm so glad you're here, and I will see you tomorrow. You are listening to Naturally Inspired Daily. Subscribe today at livenaturallyinspired.com.